Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your very quick look of the Fire Mage and all the changes that are going on with this bad boy in Legion so far. And as we've seen, we've already had one new build deployed to the Alpha, which has done significant changes to the other classes. So, there's a lot of doom and gloom about the Mage right now, but it's very much compartmentalized. What people aren't realizing is a lot of the changes that have hit the Mage have actually hit absolutely everybody, namely defensives. Yeah, defensives are now kind of been gutted out of the Mage. We did get invisibility back this patch, which was one of the reasons I really didn't enjoy playing it. I did a dungeon. I've been playing this for like 4 or 5 hours-ish. Did a full dungeon on it. You get shitty XP in a dungeon, which is pretty sad. But I noticed that, yeah, I was certainly like respecking straight into Ice Block, right? I was like, I need my Ice Block because the only healer right now is a Mistweaver. That has got like a whole new playstyle. And that was a pain in the ass because there were many times where I was like, I'm going to die here. And Cauterize and Shimmer, which is a fucking useless bag of shit, was nowhere to be found. I was like, I need Ice Block. I was usually rocking Cauterize. And you do get Ice Barrier, but I mean, it's good, it's 90,000, but shit hits way hard in Legion. And in fact, what I've noticed across all the DPS classes is your ability to prevent damage has been wiped out. And that's not just even the DPSs. The tanks kind of have that in a similar way, where they kind of, you take more damage in Legion. Let's put it like that without me getting overly complex in a quick look for the Fire Mage, is you take more damage and you have less ways of preventing damage unless you specifically talent into them. What's the big change with the Fire Mage? Blizzard has kind of give up the ghost on Pyroblast. Honestly, they've given up. They're like, yeah, Pyroblast just occurs way too fucking much. We're not going to try and fix that. Which is where I would probably have gone. Is like, let's make Pyroblast exciting again. They don't like that because anytime you're getting into those streaks of non-pyros, it feels really boring. It feels like the class just isn't working. And Blizzard's recognized that and saying, look, let's give people regular Pyroblasts. Maybe gone a little bit too far so far, but this is alpha. Things will always change, guys, so nothing to worry about that. So they've made Pyro very much a regular occurrence. In fact, I would go as far to say, and I'm not bullshitting you here, is casting Fireball feels like the strange moments, right? Casting Fireball feels strange. And as such, you get so many instant casts with the Fire Mage now in terms of all the instant cast Pyroblast and our new spell, the Phoenix Flames, is that you have a really ultra mobile class. Very mobile. You mix in Ice Flows into this sumbitch and you are all over the place. Inferno Blast, instant cast Pyroblast, and of course our Phoenix's Flames mean that you are super mobile. So hopefully that's something that may appeal to you, or perhaps you'll be a little bit sad if you're a bit old school and you're like, I remember when Pyroblast used to be the big moment. Yeah, that's gone. I kind of agree with it, honestly, because anybody who's played a low-geared Fire Mage, certainly around Mr. Pandaria time, will recognize that once you start getting into like Fireball, and you're just stood here and you're like, please crit. Please crit. And of course my first one crits, typical. And you're just stood here like this, like, oh, come on, please, 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 please do something. It gets really old really fast because you're like, yeah, I can't do anything. Another big shift is away from Ignite in terms of Combustion no longer works with Ignite. Okay? So that's another big change. Is you won't be setting up Combustions like you are now. Combustion has been changed to engulf yourself in flame. It looks spectacular, by the way, guys. Are you ready for this? If you haven't seen this, oh, man. Boom. Yeah? Fuck yeah, baby. Fuck yeah. That looks badass, right? Combustion, engulf yourself in flames, literally increasing your crit chance by 100% for 10 seconds, okay? So it doesn't give you 100%, which is what I initially thought. It actually just doubles your crit chance. And it also grants you mastery equal to your crit strike stat. So whatever your crit is, it will then grant you all that mastery as well. Which means you do ludicrous amounts of DPS while under the effects of Combustion. It's now a self-buff is the way to think about it. And it's off the global cooldown as well. So you can time it towards like the end of a Fireball. So like now Combustion. So you don't waste any time. So it doesn't last very long. It's a 2-minute cooldown. It only lasts 10 seconds. And obviously you've got to get casts out of there. So you want as many instant casts as possible. Makes sense? Good. Because that leads us into our next thing. The emphasis has shifted away from Pyroblast towards Phoenix's Flames. Phoenix's Flames hits much harder. Looks less cool, in my opinion. Entirely subjective. I just think they look a bit wee. I mean, they look okay. They look okay, but I don't know. Something about a huge burning fireball of meteoric strength always seems a little bit better to me. But no mind, it's not as if that's going away. So Phoenix Flames hit much harder. They do not cause heating up when they crit. Something very, very important there. They do not cause heating up. So having them crit, you can see I've had them crit. It does nothing to your character. It causes the best ignites, obviously. And the general aim of the game is to pull off as many super powerful Phoenix Flames as possible. You have a couple of ways of doing that. They naturally generate. So as you can see here, I have Flame Orbs. Yeah. And that's these things here. Now, there's obviously, you can have a maximum of 3 so far, and they're obviously supposed to go all the way around you because, lol, Kael'thas. This is based entirely off Kael'thas, which ties into the fellow Milan, so I'm told. And, yeah, so you're supposed to have 3 of these floating around you to give you some sort of visual indicator as to how many flame orbs you have. They naturally generate, okay? They will naturally charge during the fight, but also, you have the ability Phoenix Reborn, a 1-minute cooldown, deals 10,000 damage to each ignited target, and grants a flame orb for each Phoenix birthed. Okay? So, this is going to be easier if I show you this. So let me get rid of all my flame orbs. Whee! Go Phoenixes, go Phoenix, go. Right. So obviously we've got ignited targets, yeah? Ignite naturally spreads now, something you really need to be aware of. None of this, no spreading with Infernal Blast. That just doesn't occur anymore. So what you do is you fire off Phoenix Reborn. It checks how many people are ignited, and then you get 3 charges of Flame Orb to stack up with that. What this means is you are capable of immense AoE while under the effects of Combustion. If you're smart, you could let your Flame Orbs kind of like regenerate like this, and get as many Phoenix Flames ready to go without overcapping them. Wait for your Combustion to pop. Bang, bang, bang. Big fucking Phoenix Flames hitting the targets. Really, really hard. Hardest hitting spell you have. That's generally the playstyle. My final thoughts on this, and I remember your final thoughts, is the talent system is really boring. In fact, I would say there's a little bit of flavor, if not a lot of flavor, depending on how much you enjoy Fire Mage, missing from this that used to exist. There's not much fun factor. Phoenix Flames are cool. Are they fun? Not really. I mean, they look nice, but they're not fun. They're really not. They're not as exciting because they naturally just occur. They're not as exciting as getting those, when you start getting those early Pyroblast crits. They're just not. It's not a very big deal, but it's true. The level 15, Pyromania, let's talk about these. You're casting Pyroblast while Hot Streak is active, has a 50% chance to instantly reactivate Hot Streak. You can now see why you get so many Pyroblasts, and this works in some other talents we'll have later. You get lots and lots of Pyroblasts, but again, the emphasis have kind of moved away from Pyroblast. It really has. So Fireball sucks. Pyroblast does like double the damage and more than double the damage. But the fact is, when you mix in all the different effects that you have to get to heating up, which is you have enhanced pyrotechnics, okay, which means that your crit chance is always really, really growing. In fact, it's strange to get this high, honestly. And then you have Infernal Blast to get it going, and that crits, so you can Infernal Blast again, and again, and again. You can see how this plays already, right? I have really shit fucking gear. And yeah, this is low level, but it's not low level enough to, like you would see on the really low level targets where you get all the enhanced benefits. It doesn't really work that way. So there is some interaction going on there, but not a great deal. I can tell you after leveling and doing dungeons, you Pyroblast all the fucking time. Conflict, enemies affected by Ignite have a chance to flare up for 3 seconds. While flared up, nearby enemies take an additional damage. The fact of the matter is, you can Pyroblast so fucking much that it's entirely possible that things that buff your ability to get Pyroblast will be diminished in favor of things like this. Which some might argue is less interesting. But again, this thing is going to scale crazily from what I can see right now. It's my big worry about it. Firestarter, Fireball can now chain up to one nearby target. Fireball just doesn't occur that often, really. I would say it's about 30-35%. And that's about it. And it's really that small. Your initial starter period like this is the worst. And then it starts off and then you start going into Phoenix Flames. And remember, your Pyroblast actually changes to Phoenix Flames, okay? So what you'll have is this big period of time where you'll just be sitting on Pyroblast and you'll not even be able to cast it for quite some time. And then you go back to Fireball. You can see, like, I did 9 or 10 casts there before going back to that. I haven't even used Combustion to get back into that period. So you have all these cooldowns and different spells occurring where Fireball just doesn't really get much of a look in. Shimmer. When you take damage, there's a 30% chance of the cooldown for Blink being reset. No. Cauterize. Fatal damage will instead bring you to 35% health and then burn you for 20% of your max health over 6 seconds while burning. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It is what it is. Ice Block is now a talent, which fucking sucks. It really fucking sucks. I would love Ice Block to be back because it's just one of those core fundamental things of a mage. It would make sense if Cauterize was passive for Fire Mages and Ice Block wasn't, and you had something else here, and then vice versa for Frost Mages, where they had to take Cauterize, and all those kind of things, but that might be slightly overpowered. Level 45 mirror images talent. Rune of Power still exists, okay? This is something that Blizzard, and I said this like in the WOD alpha, probably the MOP alpha. Just fuck it off, man. It's shit. No one likes it. But what they're trying to do now is turn it into a cooldown. So instead of being permanently in a Rune of Power, what you have now is a 41-second recharge on it, and you place a Rune of Power on the ground for 10 seconds, which increases your spell damage by 50%. This means it's mandatory, essentially, unless everything else really balances out here. But if you're good at following trinket procs and lining up combustions and Phoenix Flames charges and stuff, it's going to be mandatory. Because that's on-demand burst when you're already under the effects of things that give on-demand burst. And that stacks really fucking well compared to something a little bit more random like Incanter's Flow. My problem with it is not being a cooldown. I think that's a nice change. The problem is it's too short of a cooldown. If you're going to make it a cooldown, please just make it a little bit longer because this lines up nicely with nothing. Nothing! It lines up nicely with nothing. It's nice now where I'm like, okay, Rune of Power, Combustion, go, and then I can get into stuff. That's okay. Because now I'm like under the effects. Woo, look at all the extra shit I'm firing off and all these Pyroblasts and blah, 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 blah. That's cool. Right? Yeah, you get it, right? But yeah, it's on such a short cooldown. You're having to use it like all the time, almost unnecessarily not to waste charges. So that could use some definite adjustment. Incanter's Flow is Incanter's Flow. Blast Wave is what it is. Flame On activates 2 charges of Infernal Blast. Feels like a waste in the current setup, as you just don't struggle to get to many Pyroblasts. You just don't. And then you get back to... You can see how often I'm casting Fireball. It's just so low. That the idea of granting extra Infernal Blast charges just doesn't seem relevant. Sometimes it will. Perhaps when they change the stats and we're not getting anywhere near as many Pyroblasts, then that could be useful. But Control Burn, when you gain Heating Up, there is a 10% chance to instantly go into Hot Streak. This chance is increased by your Crit Strike chance. So this ties in really well with Combustion, which doubles your crit and all this stuff, right? And then your base crit from gear all banishes together to get way more Pyroblasts again on top of Pyromaniac. Do you get it? This all works to make Fireball useless, which is why it's just... There's too many of these things, for my opinion. Ice Flows is great. Ring of Frost is great. Ice Ward is, yeah. Living Bomb, still very cool. Maybe spread by Infernal Blast. Not at the moment. Whether or not that's a typo, if I could just take this quickly. By Infernal Blast and then spread it. Nothing. You can see my Living Bomb is not on the targets. Whether or not that will change, I don't know. But that's just the way it is right now. Unstable Magic, still the same as it was. Flame Patch. Nice, because if you don't know, when you're going to Heating Up, your Flame Strike is now instant. Very cool. Very cool to be able to throw that in there and just be able to... It doesn't cause Heating Up, which is a bit of a bummer. It's an absolute bit of a bummer, but still. It's nice to have the instant cast Flame Strike and then Flame Patch, which just allows them to burn for more and more time. Is nice. Kindling is going to be mandatory for a while, I think. So let's talk about Cinderstorm. Cinderstorm is right now too wussy for me. It has an 8-second cooldown, which means to get the most of it, you're going to have to use it all the time. There are just far better things to be doing with your Fire Mage right now. This talent doesn't even look cool. It looks like I'm shooting off like some... it very much reminds me of that X-Men character. The girl who fires off the fireworks. Jubilee. Whee! Yeah? I don't know. Even if its damage is buffed, it's still really annoying. It's such a short cooldown that I'm considering all the extra things that just do way more that I could be doing with my Fire Mage. I don't know. Meteor seems to fit the role of Cinderstorm already. It seems like, why do we need Cinderstorm when we have Meteor, which also causes like colossal AoE damage? Why do we need 2 things that do that, and only 1 thing that really affects our single target? Your Fireball, Pyroblast, and Infernal Blast crit strikes reduce the cooldown on Combustion by 1 second. Kind of mandatory right now, for the reasons I've already said. Is that you're critting so often with so many Pyroblasts, all mixed in. Combustion has a low cooldown anyway at 2 minutes. And you get this thing back so fucking quickly. You're critting all the time, especially due to Control Burn and Pyromaniac and all this stuff. That, yeah, it's just like, you have to take this. Why would you not take this? And the only reason you wouldn't, and I would like to have said, it's because, well, eventually you're going to be doing so much that you don't need the bonus crit from Combustion. If it didn't have that grants you Mastery stat, which it does have, right? It grants you the Mastery stat. If Combustion didn't have that, and Combustion worked differently, So you can obviously tell if you're an experienced Fire Mage that, yeah, there's a lot of skill removed from the Fire Mage right now. Your big emphasis will just be on doing Phoenix's Flames. And when I say skill, proper Ignite management is no easy feat. A lot of people seem to think it's very, very simple. It's not. Yes, you can get certainly lucky sometimes, but to do consistently great combustions requires some setup and planning. And that is now kind of gone in favor of just checking your Phoenix Flames charges and then reactivating them with Phoenix Reborn and managing that. That's about it. So something to bear in mind there. But it just feels less fun, if I'm being totally honest with you. It feels less fun. Let's look at these then. So obviously our first ability you get with Fellow Milan is the Phoenix Reborn. Nothing here yet. A lot of things like Fireball deals 5% increased damage. I only have this because I have a relic that gave it me. I would probably have taken it anyway because, well, no, look, Pyroblast is there. I do way more Pyroblast than Fireballs. But this worries me. Pyretic Incantation. Every consecutive critical strike chance increases your critical strike damage by 15%. Why? The obvious changes they have made here are to bring Fire Mages some sort of balance. Because a Fire Mage that has luck on its side goes absolutely crazy. So why the fuck would you put something like this in there that just becomes obscene and very difficult to balance and in fact can have dramatic outcomes? A single player can start doing obscene things. Let's hope and pray that this thing has a limit of like 3 max. And Blast Furnace. If Pyroblast now applies Crucible of Flames, dealing additional damage. Boring. Just a hot over time. Other than that, the Fire Mage is a little unfinished in the artifact trees, as you can see. There's a few things missing here. This one's missing here. But in general, fire damage, buffs, pyro buffs. Nothing really exciting. Now, I will say when you blink, you heal for 60 over 6 seconds. Now, obviously, this is a wrong number. No healing. The Fire Mage is only the class that I've had to stop and eat reasonably regularly while leveling. Not all the time, maybe once every 10-15 minutes. Certainly not a big deal. I think that it's okay that some classes can't just go forever and ever and ever. It's going to be a big change for a lot of people, though, right? A lot of people are going to be like, I never really had to do this. Now I have to do this. But most of the time, you probably aren't leveling as fire anyway. You're probably using something like Frost. So there you go. That's the quick look of where it is right now. Love to see your thoughts and feedback, guys. Please fill me in. And give me anything you want me to check out with the Fire Mage. I'll let you know. All right? Bye-bye.